David Lincoln Productions.
Information contained in this video is for educational purposes only. Everybody's financial situation is different, so some strategies covered in this video may not be appropriate for you. Trading in leverage products is risky and should only make up a small part of an overall investment strategy. To become a better trader, you need to take personal responsibility for any trading losses. Views of people being interviewed are not necessarily endorsed by this channel. We try to present many opposing views and let you decide. David is not a licensed financial advisor and is not trying to sell you anything. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
All right, so here we are. Welcome to the show. My name is David Lincoln, and I am here joined today by Lassal Inungu. Welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me.
I've just met you for the first time, so I appreciate you doing this.
No problem.
I just found you a couple weeks ago, and I find you to be a fascinating character, and I wanted to have you on because you're a little different than the usual people I have on. I usually have people that are like strictly volatility traders.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's interesting to have somebody that's come from, just pure stock setups. And actually, I don't want to define you. I'm going to let you define yourself. But this is what I know about you so far, that you came up sort of through learning from some of the Tim Sykes videos.
Absolutely.
And stuff. But you seem to have, I don't know. What do you think of Tim Sykes?
I love him. That guy's responsible for where I am now. You know, at the time that I came across him online, I was a college graduate who couldn't find a job, who was really not sure about what my future looked like. And I figured that, being able to make money online was maybe the next way to go. But even that requires a significant amount of startup capital. So what he was presenting is the ability for someone to learn unique strategies that he teaches with just a few $1,000s to eventually become, 100,000, 200,000 or more. But I love the fact that, again, with being a trader, you don't need any, you don't need a location. You don't need really any kind of education for that matter, just really a determination to learn the material and a commitment to see it through. So I'm very grateful to what he teaches, and I figure like everyone out there who was in that position as I was at the time should embrace that philosophy.
Well, I think a lot of the viewers will know Tim Sykes. He's become I watched famous. Some of his videos a couple years ago. What time period was this where you were watching his stuff?
This was late 2011, early 2012 that I came across Tim Sykes. Now, he has been, from my research, I believe maybe early as 2007, 2008, he was out there. And I hadn't come across him at that time, but 2012 was where I really kind of got engaged with his content.
Now, was he showing you? He was showing you basically stock sort of setups, or was he? Were you in sort of a chat room where he was giving ideas for penny stocks and that sort of thing?
Yes, so absolutely. He teaches his setups, which at the time was more engaged towards shorting small cap stocks. So looking for choosing a broker who had the best borrows and being able to identify penny stock scams and whatnot. Now, the thing that ended up happening is that I eventually got into the promotion side. The other side of the business he actually didn't like, but because I saw the opportunity to make money there. But yes, that's what he was teaching at the time was small cap penny stocks and how to short or identify penny stock scams and promotions and their tops in order to gain profit on the downside.
Yeah, it's I always found him to be a fascinating character, just in that he has these certain instincts. It's almost like, correct me if I'm wrong in this, but It's well, my opinion of it is that he's sort of the things that make him a successful trader are kind of unique to himself in a way that he sort of feels and has instincts for things like. A lot of people wouldn't be as successful as him, I think. And when I watched his videos, it didn't really explain to me how he himself was good, but he's definitely good himself. So what do you think of that Profitly and that trade tracking software? Did you sort of come up through that system as well?
Well, no, that came out significantly after I had kind of learned his setup. Again, I had bought the DVDs at the time and really kind of, the first steps of the when he kind of first got on YouTube, started really putting a significant amount of his content. The Profitly kind of came out a little bit later, and I didn't immerse myself into the Profitly aspect of his business. But yeah, mostly for me was the DVDs at the time.
Well, I want to give you a chance because I know that you're on the air like hours and hours a day, but I want to give you a chance to be on the other side of the mic for a little bit and just talk about yourself for a little bit and your sort of journey coming up as a as a trader and just in general. Were you interested in the markets from a very young age?
Yeah, I actually was. Growing up, I knew what the stock market was. I knew how people made money on the stock market. But I had a very conventional way of thinking about the stock market. So, I remember going into classrooms and they would have those stock market kind of games where we would play in classes like economics or business. And, you're excited because you want to win and you want to be at the top to show people you know what you're doing. But the way you trade is very conventional. You buy Verizon, you buy Walmart, they teach you to buy stocks and what products you have in your house. I mean, that's the way people are still taught how to trade. And come to find out, obviously through my results, I mean, by the end of school year, I think my trading account would be up like 2 or 3%. It was a horrible way to trade at the time, but I didn't know any better. Eventually, years down the road, I was introduced again to small cap stocks, particularly through Tim Sykes. But yeah, I had known about trading, but again, I didn't have the education to teach me that there are several different ways and several different classes of stocks you can buy and how to make money on them.
So did you do economics in college? Is that right?
No. So I did business management. Went through business management. And of course, that doesn't really tell you how to manage a business, but just explaining what business management is.
So what is, I'm not really familiar with how is business management like a lot of sort of microeconomics, like how to run a small business and that sort of thing?
Absolutely. So it's a kind of a macro idea of how to run a business, organizational. It includes a little bit of organizational leadership, a little bit of business, a little bit of accounting, a little bit of finance. So it's basically just a macro concept of what running a business is. And the idea is that it's a foundation education that eventually you can use to go into the marketplace and eventually with some, more experience as well as probably a master's level education, eventually walk into an executive leadership position.
Was that your plan, when you started? Or?
Absolutely. I mean, that was what I was thinking I was going to do. In fact, I'm a veteran of the U.S. Navy, so I had got out the Navy, went back to school.
Well, thanks for your service.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And went back to school, got my degree, and saved some money because I was receiving the GI Bill. And at the time, the GI Bill was very generous. So I was saving quite a bit of that money. I moved to New York City, where my sister was living at the time, and I basically couch surfed with her for a good almost 2 years. And I could not find a job, Dave. I mean, I don't know what it was. I don't want to think of what I think it was, but I just could not find a job, Dave. And I bounced from job to job, working mostly. What are those temp positions? I worked at mail rooms at Prudential. I worked at mail rooms in all kind of different office buildings. I mean, and that's what kind of got me angry to a point, Dave, is because I felt like I was smart enough, I was intelligent enough, I was capable enough to be on the floor as whether it be even an assistant to whatever other position. No matter, I thought I was capable of being a full-time employee at a business in New York City that had the potential to, give me a life worth living. And I wasn't able to find that opportunity. And that what led me to come to the conclusion that I need to go online and create an opportunity for myself.
That has to have been a pretty big transition going from the country outside of Detroit to New York City. That must have been, I guess it's helpful if you have a sister that's there, but that must have been a big transition for you a little bit.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, coming from the city of Detroit to New York City, I mean, it's night and day. You're going from one city that is completely, falling apart basically to where in New York City, I mean, politics, business, everybody, the city has it together, right? They have a structure that is pro-business, getting it right. And that was definitely a change of pace for me and the hustle and bustle of New York. But at the end of the day, I'm very much a scrapper, and I fell right into it. But when you're fighting and trying and, doing what they tell you to do, waking up early, getting out there, connecting with people, and it's still not happening, you do get to a point where you say, you know what, I'm going to just go out and figure it out for myself and create a unique opportunity that can, grow myself. And I own every part of it.
So I lived in Chicago for a long time and got to go to Detroit a couple times. But so, yeah, I guess I got that wrong. I was just reading your About Me section on your webpage that was talking about you coming from outside of Detroit. But did you actually grow up inside Detroit?
Well, so I spent a few of my formidable years in Detroit. Eventually, we're calling it real back right now, but by my junior year of high school, I ended up moving to a town called Mount Pleasant, which is just outside of the city of Detroit. So spent the last 2 years there. I don't really, I don't consider it where I kind of became who I am, but it was a part, of course, of my life. And I really enjoyed the people. It's a farming community for the most part. And I really enjoyed my time that I spent there.
Okay. So you got to New York and it just wasn't happening. Like doors slamming in your face, tough to, not a whole lot of connection to pull you up. And so what next? So you went online.
Right. So went online, went through various different types of MLM and multi-level marketing kind of programs, but did a lot of research on those kind of things and possibly the opportunities that I could, generate from them. But, just a little bit of research will tell you that, most of the people who engage in that kind of business, they fail. And it's a really kind of whoever was there first and everyone else behind them suffers.
Yeah, that's rough. That's tough.
Right.
Rough, yeah.
Kind of business. So on YouTube, which at the time was still pretty fresh, I found Tim Sykes and about his strategy and how he was very strongly against promoters and what they were doing and how they were manipulating the market and how much they made and whatnot. And but even his strategy requires some capital. And what I kept hearing was the fact that promoters make a lot of money. So I figured, look, I got a great voice. I'm pretty good at making videos. I really don't care what other people think about me because I'm really just trying to create what I can create out here in terms of building myself up. That I decided, let me, make a couple videos and see if I can get some third-party people out there to, put me into the promoting game.
So, so what happened? So so tell me about promoting because I'm not real clear on exactly how that works.
So when you promoting stocks is basically you working in public relations for small cap companies that have no public relations departments themselves. So companies like Apple, Amazon, all these large caps, they have departments that they can, utilize to create investor pamphlets and really kind of really build a community around their stock. Now they don't actively promote it per se, but you understand. I mean, they have departments that answer questions, feedback through,
like
through
an investor relations department.
Exactly.
Like
So these small publicly traded companies, they don't have that. They don't have the capital, the resources in order to do that. So what you are responsible for is Once, of course, the paperwork is signed, is for you to go out and create excitement, create traction around that company, its product, and its services that it's offering. Now, your job is not to take a position in the stock, because that's, of course, against the law. And then now you're kind of treading on hot water there. But, for the most part, that's your job, is to go out and get people excited about the company and their service.
So you would you would approach a company and say, I would be interested in helping to promote this company. Would you you would do more than one company at the same time, though? Is that right? You would sign
well, later down the line, that's what I was doing. But at the beginning, it was really about sending an email to an over-the-counter traded company. Most of them that were depressed and not very low volume, and saying, hey, my name is Lassal Inungu. I have this YouTube page. I'm really liking what you guys are doing. I'd like to talk about your business, and in exchange, you guys would offer me, at the time I think it was like $2,500. I thought that was like a lot of money at the time, $2,500. And next thing you know, over the course of several days or several weeks, I was generating anywhere between $150,000 to $250,000, sometimes $500,000 worth of trading in that stock. Now, wow. For a small cap over the counter trade, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money for daily trading for a company that, its business operations are kind of fickle at best.
And all of a sudden these guys are saying, wow, this kind of works,
Absolutely.
Well,
absolutely.
$2,500, and all of a sudden our stock has appeared on the radar where it was nowhere before.
Exactly. And the business just came out. I mean, it's just the floodworks opened up, and I was getting emails, getting offers. And for once in my life, Dave, I understood how to become a business owner. I understood how to, use your talents to make money. And it was so freeing for me as someone who for a long time had traded, hours for dollars, for all of a sudden now to make a 5-minute video and get, $2,500, $5,000. It was, that was a lot of money to me. That was life-changing money at the time. And that was the kind of money that I used to eventually start trading with.
So which was the first company that you promoted?
All right. So the first, oh God, Dave, it's so funny you bring that up, because I honestly can't remember what the first company I started off promoting. I mean, so many companies now. I know my biggest, of course, was a company called Canadian Technical Training Group. CTTG was the ticker symbol at the time.
Okay.
And I promoted this company, Dave. They paid me $3,000. And over the course of 2.5 weeks, we increased the stock by 3,000%. I mean, wow. It was an insane return on investment for the owners as well as the shareholders that were involved in the stock at the time. That was my biggest hit of my career in promoting at the time.
So if this was me, and the wheels of like pump and dumping companies would start spinning in my head if I were you. I'd be like, wait a second, maybe I could promote stuff without actually being hired by the company. And did you think that down those lines at all, or?
No, because that then I'm not trying to lose my freedom, Dave. I mean I enjoy making money, but I enjoy being free. And the thing about the industry, the Securities and Exchange Commission, allows promoters to exist. I mean, there are very clear lines that can be crossed when you promote companies and then take positions in those. And I never took personal positions in anything that I traded. So I was strictly someone who was being compensated to generate attention for that company's products and services. So that was really all I wanted to do. And in order for me to do that and profit, that I needed to engage particular companies and have them agree to work with me. So I could never take a position in the company and just promote it just to promote it.
Well, it is sort of, you are sort of crossing paths with a similar sort of crowd in a sense, because the small cap and penny stock investors, that is the world of little spikes and then back down, and there are, you know, these sort of pumper and dumper people out there that that will be like, okay, let's all get on this or that, and it, you know, it's really come to more sort of public attention with this crypto stuff now, because they have these sort of very public, oh, we're pump and dumping crypto, and that sort of brought that to light. Well, that's really impressive that you're able to find a little niche in the financial world to make some real money to get yourself going. You know, there's so many little niches in the financial world, and the only thing, we talk about this a lot, the only thing you need to be successful in finance is to find that one little thing that you can do, that you can own, that will make you money. You know, there's so many parts of finance that I know nothing about that people are making money in right now, and all you need is that little one to get you, you know, to make you money and be successul.
Absolutely. And that's what makes this one of the best businesses to be in. And I really consider trading as a business. And, you know, I read about guys who have 1 or 2 setups, and that's literally all they do over and over and over and over again. And, you know, Warren Buffett has a great quote about, you know, trading. He talks about how, you know, baseball, you only have, you know, 3 chances really to swing at the ball. And the stock market is very different, because you get chances every single day and you don't have to swing at anything. And that's what makes this market and this business incredibly profitable, as well as lucrative, you know, not as profitable, as well as just a great place to be, honestly.
Well, you were sort of hinting when you were talking about going to New York about a lot of doors slamming on your face, that there might be other motives for that. When I first came to Chicago, I came to Chicago in the 90s. What a fraternity member of mine got me, I was definitely a product of like the old boy network, and a fraternity member of mine got me a spot to go as a runner on the floor. And he introduced me the first day to a full trader on a badge, and he was black. And we went out, and after we went to a bar, and this is my first time like in Chicago. I'd been living over in Boston. We got to a bar, and we had to get a taxi on the way home, and he's like, all right, I'm going to duck around the corner, and you guys go flag a taxi down, and then I'll jump in. I mean, that is the status of race relations in Chicago at the time. And, you know, it's obviously race relations in the United States are not resolved at all. And it's probably, you know, a very clear thing in our industry as well, which is dominated by white males. I mean, it's also the same problem with women. Have you obviously? Well, I don't know. I'll let you use your own words. But have you noticed? Do you think that was one of your barriers to entry?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just listening to your story. I mean, if that's what he's got to go through to get a taxi, imagine what he had to go through to get that job. I mean, so
right.
you know, I think so. And but you know, I don't try to think about it too much, because I don't like to get in that kind of defeatist mindset. I'm very much a guy who's going to hustle and keep fighting right against any kind of pressures to kind of have me settle and equip and just kind of, you know, accept the status quo. But yeah, obviously, I mean, you know, if I think looking back at my time in New York, I think there were opportunities that I could have probably gotten if I looked different. I think that there were some, you know, interviewers who I think kind of had wrote me off when I walked in, even though I had a great interview and was eager to pursue a career in business or in finance. But again, I don't want to rest on those things. And Dave, you really just have to kind of keep fighting and understand that there's so many opportunities out here that you know, but of course you got to be aware of them. And even on my platform now, on my show, on my channel, the American Investor Show, it is something that we discuss, because I know there are traders out there who deal with that. And, you know, managing my channel, yeah, there's some really racist comments that I get because, you know, the framework doesn't fit what's out there in terms of someone who looks like me talking about stocks like the way I talk about it, being as frank as I talk about, you know, as I am, it's not what the framework is, and a lot of people are kind of put off by it, and that's sometimes their first thing to go at is to yell a racial epithet at me or something like that through the you know, the anonymity that YouTube provides. But I only use that to empower myself to go harder, to go longer, and that's why I'm on every day, you know, Monday through Thursday for the most part. If I miss a show, I make it up with something else. And it's just every episode just kind of putting out content because I know how I can inspire the next generation behind me. And also, I put out the kind of content that traders who, you know, are Black, and we have very unique circumstances when it comes to trading. Many of us are very poorly capitalized. Many of us are dealing not, you know, with the proper education, don't have the proper education when it comes to trading. So I'm putting out the content and the ways to kind of improve and close the gap when it comes to, you know, education as well as skill.
Well, that's really awesome. And, you know, the beauty of trading in the end is once you've got money, the brokerage screen, it doesn't respond to who you are. I mean, if you got that dollar to buy that call or that stock, in the end, it's a level playing field.
Absolutely.
And it, you know, it's which was a beautiful thing for me as a trader, is that once I got the badge, it doesn't matter if there's some big guy that's been there for 50 years or whatever. It's still we're equal. You know, the dollar is a great equalizer, and you're judged in the end by whether you can survive and make money. And
exactly, and that's why I try to really push not thinking about a dollar sign, but thinking about, you know, how you're trading and improving your timing and improving your education. I think I'm still in an education mindset. I can definitely improve it a lot in my trading, learning about options. I just really started learning about options over the last 12 months, and I have barely scratched the surface when it comes to options. So I try not to put the money thing in, you know, at the top of my head, because when you start thinking about, well, how much money do I have to trade, and they've got more money than me, I think that's a bit of a defeatist mindset. You can be as successful as you want to be if you focus on your technique and your education. I really believe that.
Well, I am gonna at some point pitch to you something about maybe coming on your show sometime to talk a little bit about options. If people are interested.
Oh yes, very much so, Dave. And I appreciate anyone who has education they'd love to bring to my viewers. I have over just under 21,000 subscribers on YouTube. I have a nightly show that generates a little over 1,000 viewers a night within the 24 hours that I put it out there. And I have over 1.5 million views on YouTube. So anyone who has the you know, education to offer and are willing to educate a community that's really kind of been left behind when it comes to education and technique, please, I'm more than happy to you know, put your information out there.
Well, I think it's great that you're providing this service for, like you said, a community that's definitely out there, but is underrepresented as far as people who are just starting out, or people that are trading the smaller cap stocks, and that's of interest to anybody that's trading those, obviously. All right, so let's continue down the line of your sort of career here. So you started doing the promotions, and you did. How long did that last for?
Well, so that kind of dried up, I'd say circa late 2015. Sentiment around trading, trading OTC stocks just kind of really changed. The marijuana hype had kind of came and went, and now we were kind of fizzling down where the overall indices were doing really good. 2014, late 2014, early 2015, the markets was actually really doing really well. And the case for OTC stocks was really dwindling. And a lot of guys just had moved over to some of the more larger cap stocks. And that's where attention was moving to. And I had made quite a bit of money in promoting. So now I had a foundation that I can really go out there and learn how to trade the right way.
So let me just go back to the contract for a sec, just because I'm curious. So what would it say when you're promoting a stock? Would it say, all right, we're going to give you $2,500. We want you to do like X amount of videos, or we want you to make a video and we want to approve it before you put it out, or we just want you to spend X amount of time? What sort of deal did they make with you?
So here's the thing, that it's actually quite a liberal business. And, you know, first, when you're dealing with a lot of these companies, they don't like to deal with you in terms of, hey, I'm the CEO, I'm hiring. It's more or less through a third party individual. So that third party represents someone else you think is at the company. A lot of times they don't even like to use their real names. It's a really shady business to begin with.
Okay.
So, you know, for them, it's, hey, how much, you know, attention can you generate from this video or that you're going to make? And I said, look, this is what I'm offering. It's a kind of a take it or leave it kind of thing, where the promoters have all the power and the companies are really kind of at the mercy of the promoters. So you can, you know, negotiate whatever, you know, you're asking for, and as well as, you know, this is what I'm going to do. You kind of tell the company what they do. I mean, the company can come with, hey, we want you to do this, but they don't really know what's going to be successful. So they for them to make demands, it really doesn't make sense, because why should I send postcards? Why should I send, you know, it's kind of the silly things a lot of companies would say for you to do, because it wouldn't make sense to do that. So
I guess they must be kind of like sort of intimidated by like the new media and
right,
YouTube
exactly,
and
very much. I mean, think about it. Most of these over-the-counter traded stocks are ran by individuals who are in their late 50s, early 60s. Their websites are from the early 90s, and a lot of them, they are so behind in terms of education and how to reach the new class of investors. They don't even know where to start. So for them, it's, hey, how soon can you generate some kind of attraction for my company? They could care less what you plan to do in order to do that.
So how would you pitch them? What was ideal for you? You would say, I'm going to generate X amount of videos in the next 2 weeks, or I'm just going to work exclusively for you, like 40 hours a week for the next 2 weeks, or what would you say to them? Like what sort of
so my pitch was just, look, you know, you got a company here that has generated less than $10,000 worth of volume over the last 30 days, right? So that you know, your stock's not going anywhere. You're putting out some great news. The company, you're actually developing your product, meeting new markers down the road through the process that you've said in that 10K, but nobody's paying attention to it. So here's what I'm going to do. I've got 5,000 at the time, 5,000 subscribers on YouTube who trade stocks, who love over-the-counter stocks. Give me $5,000. For that, I will 10 times 10x what you're generating right now on a 30-day basis in terms of trading volume. I will create Facebook ads. I will create Instagram ads. I will create Twitter ads around your company and your stock. I will 10x what you are generating right now in trading volume. All right. So when they hear that, for the kind of cost I'm asking for, $5,000 for 5 Gs, 10 Gs, hell yeah, they're going to do it. They're going to do it. So many of them are preferably low float, because I like to show that, you know, their stock price is increasing, because that's what's going to generate the buying volume, is the fact that other traders see that, oh my God, okay, other traders want this, the stock is going up. You know, nobody wants to miss the FOMO, or the fear of losing out, missing out, excuse me. And that's kind of how, you know, you get started in that business.
Well, it's awesome all around, because like they're like, oh wow, $5,000, what a bargain, and meanwhile you're like, $5,000, this is awesome.
Yeah, right. So you know, you got to understand. I mean, I'm living on the couch, so yeah, $5,000. I mean, that's a lot of money to me, and to them, you know, for 5,000 for me to generate $100,000 worth of buying, that's an easy trade. So
yeah, the other good thing that's on. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
No, go ahead.
The other good thing that kind of is the kicker for this whole thing is it allows you to build your YouTube presence and your social media presence. It gives you a catalyst to build your presence. So that's awesome.
Absolutely. I mean, and with that, you can use that leverage to create even a bigger network than you have, get some of these guys to come on the show and things like that. So I was able to kind of build my name through the over-the-counter, you know, that sector of trading.
All right. So 2014. You said, was it?
Yeah, I'll say 2015. Yes.
Stuff starts to dry out in the OTCs for a little bit. So what do you do next?
So after then, so now promoting's really dried up. I'm not going, every other week like I used to, or sometimes every week. So what I do then is start what I'm doing now. Is I start a nightly show on YouTube that streams live Monday through Thursday, 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. And I talk about what's going on in the over-the-counter space, as well as review some large cap stocks as well. And we talk about the market as a whole. And, it's really been another incredible catalyst to my business, my trading education. And we started off with 6 people a night. Now we're just about hitting like 150 or so nightly. So it's still growing. The upside potential is just huge. I got sponsors now. I got people coming to me with their products and offering discounts to my listeners. So I've really used this new media to leverage this growing community of traders who are looking to stay on top of the markets literally 24/7. Guys have made the markets their lives, and we don't have a media yet that caters to 24/7 market following. We don't have that apparatus yet. And I think I'm still at the just scratching the surface of what I think this could be, but that's where I started out at. And, again, now we built it up, and I'm really looking forward to the future doing this.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that YouTube is underserved in our particular industry. I mean, if you want to play some video game or watch someone play a video game, there's like a million channels. If you want to do your makeup or something, there's a million channels. But when it comes to finance, there's not a whole lot out there, and the stuff that is out there is like so like badly put together.
Right.
It's like and there's not a whole lot of original content.
Right.
There's that sort of and probably about 50% of the people, it seems like, are trying to sell you some like really expensive like training, like it'll be like a guy who, like a buff guy who's like has this like conspicuous signs of consumption. He's got like a Ferrari and he's in Hawaii and he's like, come on my boot camp, and it shows him trading for like 10 minutes a day and making like 20 grand, and like every guy in his group makes tons of money every day, and it just that kind of stuff, which is just a whole bunch of garbage. And I know that, Tim was obviously an innovator online, but even if you look at his beginning videos, it's not produced. It's not like real slick or anything like that. But I think you've definitely hit a nerve because there are people that are online that are traders that are thinking about trading 24 hours a day and want to be talking to other people that are of like mind. And so
absolutely. YouTube is definitely we're far behind in terms of finance on YouTube, and there's a lot of old content, a lot of stale content, and unfortunately you do have guys out there who have been using the platform to fool people to think that they're incredibly successful multi-million-dollar traders, and they're really not. And I think that's kind of what has made me popular with certain people, is the fact that I'm very real about where I am and how I've been trading and the money I make. And I think anyone out there who's really kind of looking to get out of the whole chat room forum thing and really start to join this new emerging media that's only going to get deeper, and with the including of the creating of 5G in 2 years or so, it's only going to get better. It's only going to get better. And guys who are looking to make a name for themselves, create their own little segment within the space, get on YouTube right now. Get on YouTube, and share your knowledge and invite other people to share theirs. And it's only going to get better, and it's only going to get more.
Yeah, I came back to trading a couple years ago, and I definitely I wanted like somebody to talk to, and I wanted some connection with other traders. And so I went on StockTwits, and I found one of these groups, which is like, it's like on Discord, and they give like hints and like trading alerts and stuff like that. And I'm experienced enough to know that it's basically these guys. I mean, if they can get you to sign up for $100 a month, every 20 people they can buy a new house, you know, and
Yeah.
have those people pay the mortgage, you know, and so it's a great deal for them. But
that's exactly how it works, Dave. I mean, many of these guys, and again, I'm biased because, you know, I know Tim gets the heat for that as well, but I'm a little biased because, again, what he taught me. But for a lot of them who basically are copying everything he does, I mean, basically they just going to the Tim Sykes 101 book and basically copying everything he's done. And that's basically what they teach their members, is everything that he teaches, but just putting their name on it. But with that being said, yeah, I mean, these guys are literally funding their trading accounts with your losses. I mean, because let's be honest, they're not creating traders who can, you know, become stay-at-home traders. They're not creating traders who can quit their jobs. They basically are feeding off people who are disenchanted with life, disenchanted with the way things are going. They're selling them the dream of being able to make $100,000 in a week or 2 weeks or a month. And eventually that person leaves disillusioned, and off they go, and it's replaced by another guy who just bought the course. So that's unfortunately where the business is right now. But I think, again, as social media, this new media becomes more mature, traders start becoming a little bit more transparent, and I think things will change eventually. And I think the days of the stock guru are kind of fading, and guys are going to have to just go back to, you know, being, you know, traders again, and being guys who just have a real pure love for the markets.
So the whole time that you were doing promoting, were you also trading yourself?
No. So at the time I was not trading. Of course, I had some long positions, you know, in stocks that maybe I would follow here and there, but for the most part, I was not actively trading. No, I was fully immersed in my promotion business.
Well, see, that's a very trader thing to say, though. You're like, well, I wasn't trading. I mean, of course, I had a few positions here and there and longs. The normal person in the world doesn't have a couple positions here and there in long. So
yeah, I guess you're right. I guess you're right on that one.
So okay, so then what changed? So I'm sorry, let me back up. So were you able to save like some of the money from the promoting and stuff like that, or?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I eventually had made more than enough to move back to Detroit. So after I got off the couch, and again, promoting 100% was part of that. It got me off the couch. I moved back to Detroit, and with that is where I kind of started to. And I was still in promoting when I got back. I was still in promoting, but eventually, yes, I saved up a significant amount. And eventually when I got back to Detroit, I moved into an apartment that was like $450 a month, all utilities included, rough neighborhood. But I was afraid, Dave. I was afraid to really start living like the money I was making, because I was thinking, what if, you know, it stops? What if it dries up? I was really always thinking about my end result. Where did I want what did I want to do with the money that I made? And it was all about, you know, really keeping my liabilities low and my costs low, so that eventually this money that I am saving, I can go out there and, you know, be a real $1 million trader one day.
So you came back to Detroit, and was that 2015 or was that 2014?
That's correct.
Okay.
2015. Mm-hmm.
And then you start up the stuff on YouTube, the regular show.
That's
and
correct.
And then you start thinking about maybe taking some I don't know, swing trades or day trading or that sort of positions.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I actually went from promoting penny stocks to now shorting penny stocks. So I went back to what Tim Sykes had taught, and now I had the money to do it. So at that time, I then started creating little hit pieces on companies that I knew were overvalued, right? So when you talk about many of these over-the-counter stocks, they're 10Ks, 8Ks. They're basically what, 5 or 6, 7 pages. Very easy to really break down and understand, you know, overvaluation when you're talking about an over-the-counter stock. And I started shorting. Stocks that had gotten so overvalued they made no sense at that current trading level. So I started doing that, and have been doing that now for the last 2.5 years.
So do you think that the average guy that that does really well in penny stocks is somebody who basically shorts the spikes. Is that the way it works in general?
Absolutely,
That's my
absolutely.
impression, yeah.
Yeah, there's no. I don't care what anybody says. There's no consistent philosophy or trading style for going long in penny stocks, right? There's no real, there's not. I mean, how do you even know it's going to move? I mean, they're based on hype. They're based on manipulation. Unless you are Moses, are going to live for 700 years or so, you don't know when that stock is going to run. So the only way I think you could easily be able to make a profitable method of trading over-the-counter stocks is finding overvalued stocks, getting borrows for them, and having the wherewithal to stay in the position, even though sometimes where it might go against you in the short term, but making sure you get it at what you think or hope is the top, and then riding them back down to proper valuations.
So, yeah, this is something that is totally foreign to me. So let me just ask you, like, what would you look for in financial reports to give you some indication that, like, this is a house of cards, or this is, not going higher, or this is a bad stock? Like, what would differentiate in the financial reports for you that this, like, what sort of things do you look at? Is it like a PE ratio, or is it some certain
most of these
sales?
Most of these companies are, so poorly capitalized and so poorly ran, they don't even have PE ratios. So we already know most of them are losing money. For the most part, I look at revenues. Is the company actually even generating any kind of revenue? For the most part, you'd be surprised how many, Dave, how many stocks are trading on the over-the-counter markets that have $300, $400, $500 million valuations and have never generated a single dollar of revenue. That, as well as looking for terms of where management has no experience in the business, right? So this is a private wealthy investor who all of a sudden decided they wanted to have a mine in Toronto. And that mine isn't actually digging anything. They don't actually have any equipment, for example, right? So that's another thing I look on the balance sheet. Do they actually have any equipment in that business? I look for also companies, where are they located? Do they actually have an office? You'd be surprised how many over-the-counter companies don't have an office, but in fact are being ran out of a mailbox express. I mean, that's the scam that's being done on a lot of these companies. So they're very, very simple, easy things you can look up. And again, any basic accounting course online can teach you what to look for in a failing business, and it's very easy to spot on an over-the-counter stock trade.
Are there any requirements at all for starting an over-the-counter stock? I mean, it sounds like a lot of these things are just, I mean, it doesn't sound good.
Yeah. Look, man, you know what? It actually does require some capital, right? It doesn't, it doesn't necessarily require millions of dollars. I think, with about, I'd say $700,000, you can acquire a shell. You can acquire a publicly traded shell. You can then you can rename the company. You can then start to put out 8Ks and news filings in regards to what the business is doing. And that can sometimes create traction around a company that really isn't a company at all. That's really not a real business. And traders can get overexcited and overevaluate, dreams and promises that aren't being met. And that's how you get to a stock that will have, a $400, $500 million valuation. For example, there's a ticker. Let me give an example right now. There's a ticker, WNDW. And this WNDW is an over-the-counter stock that has this plan to create these windows that create power and all. I mean, they haven't generated a single dollar in revenue. In fact, they don't actually have a working prototype of their product. And yet this is a company that last I checked had, I want to say, a $200 million valuation.
Wow.
And they are able to keep that up because, one, they do a great job of locking in their flow to a certain extent, keeping their outstanding shares very small. And so there are a lot of other things and tips and tricks that, certain companies do to kind of fight back against shorters. But eventually the market does catch up and realize the scam going on.
So you started shorting penny stocks and micro caps to actually trade for yourself. Did that become your focus a lot?
Yes, that's absolutely been my focus over the last 2 years, is identifying overvalued stocks and finding the brokers that have the borrows. I'm with Interactive Brokers right now. I think they're the best. I love them. They've been great for me, and I just find the tops, and I'm patient until eventually the scam gets uncovered, or management starts to unload, and that a lot of times is what leads to the collapse of the stock. Many marijuana companies right now that were overvalued because of the hype of legalization, they're falling apart now because people are realizing they're not real businesses. They're just basically publicly traded shells. And that's been a really good moneymaker for me right now. So, and people who watch me. So absolutely. In fact, I started now a website, advancedequityresearch.com, where I'm now analyzing these over-the-counter stocks. And now I granted, my research reports aren't what come out of Goldman Sachs. They're not what come out of Bank of America, but I'm learning. It's been 3 months now. It's been a great little ride for that. I'm really starting to really improve my writing and improve how I talk about these companies. But it's a way for me to kind of put content out there in a different kind of way.
All right, well, let me just back you up for 1 second, just for our viewers. Let's discuss for a second just the hard to borrow world and how that works. So if you want to sell a stock that you don't own, you need to borrow shares from somebody, right?
That's correct.
And the market in hard to borrow is another shady world of the finance world. And so the rule of thumb that I was taught was basically like the bigger of a firm that you go with, a firm that has more customers, the more likely they are to have access to whatever shares of XYZ. Penny stocks are a lot of them they can find stock, or some of them they can't find stock at all, or you have to pay a high percentage to borrow stock. How does it work in penny?
Yeah, so actually not too much on terms of cost of borrowing is very, very small. But yes, you're absolutely right. They are very hard to borrow because for example, one of the more popular brokers, TD Ameritrade, doesn't allow you to short OTC stocks. They don't have borrows, and they'll allow you to buy all day, right? Go long all day. E-Trade, go long. I mean, Fidelity, you can go long. But when it comes to shorting, a lot of these companies are they're not interested in engaging in that side of the business. And I think they're really missing out on an incredible opportunity there to create a new stream of revenue for themselves, because there are a lot of guys out there who short penny stocks, and Interactive Brokers for the most part has had a monopoly on that, and many guys who do short OTC stocks are customers of Interactive Brokers. But yes, the cost of borrowing hasn't been an issue, but yes, the getting borrows has been an issue, for guys who are looking to entertain that kind of trading.
I think that's another spot where it's great to be part of a group, because you can figure out which stocks are able to be borrowed and whatnot. And it's tough in a sense because there are still so many barriers to entry for the small guy. And I know in IB, I believe, still has a $10,000 minimum to start there, which is that's a huge mountain to climb for a lot of people.
Yeah, and it's really unfortunate, and it's because they're one of the best, and $10,000, and I'm going to be honest with you, Dave. I get calls from guys who say, "Hey, Sal, I only got $200. How can I trade?" And I want them to be Interactive Broker customers, right? Because they're cheap. Yeah. It's cheaper platform, great mobile platform. But unfortunately, it does require $10,000 to get started. And I understand. I mean, they have a different kind of base that they cater to. A lot of times, individual money managers and whatnot. So they got to use the TD or the Fidelity or the E-Trade. And although those are great brokers, one of the most profitable ways to trade is shorting OTC stocks. So they miss out on being able to, pursue that strategy.
So how do you structure your, like, what do you think about when you're going to short an OTC stock? How much money do you have in mind if it starts to go against you? Do you, like, obviously the like basic knowledge people would say is like, oh, I don't want to short a dollar stock because it can go to infinity. Yeah. How much room? Because obviously, if you have all the money in the world, you can let it go up as high as it wants, and it'll come back down eventually. But what sort of rules do you use yourself on this sort of trade?
Well, right now, I only like to short stocks that are over the 250 rule. So over $2.50. I like to. That's where I like to short the companies. Now, when I get into that position, it's never my full size that I want to at the time. I always start off with an entry level, a small position, just to position size in and get some shares. And I look at to see where the stock is going to do from there. If it starts to squeeze me, that's fine, because I'm only in, sometimes as little as 250 shares, 300 shares. So it's a very small, size initially. Of course, what I'd like to see is that initial position generate, let's say, maybe about 10 to 12% of profit on the initial position. And then that's when I really start to put more in, because I like to have a little bit of a cushion there for my subsequent trades within that stock. So I never go in on the full size on my first touch of the stock. So I only slowly get in, and eventually, as the stock starts to go in my direction, that's where I unload.
It's funny how, like, in the people that aren't in the finance world, sometimes they just can't get the concept of shorting something. They're like, but what do you mean you're shorting it? And you're like, well, you need to borrow a stock, and then you're borrowing someone else's stock and selling it, and you're shorting it, and so you make money if it goes down. And some people just can't conceptualize it. There must be an easier way to explain it to people, but
and it goes back, and Dave, it goes back to the conventional ways that guys are taught how to trade. They don't teach you shorting, and when you're learning how to trade stocks, so guys don't understand the concept of being able to borrow something you don't own and being able to make money off that. So it's something that somebody's got to introduce to you, or you stumble upon it and you recognize the profit potential there. And for many guys, it either becomes a very big part or sometimes the only part of the way they trade.
Or how about this one? I'm sure you've heard this one before. It's un-American to short a stock because Americans want to buy American companies. So if you're shorting a stock, you're un-American. Have you heard that?
Yo, Dave, I've heard that several times. Oh, why do you want to short these companies that could be the one day the next IBM or the next NASDAQ? Why are you un-American? Yeah, I've heard that. But look, guys who are long the stock, guys who have a bias for the to see the success in the company, they don't like hearing the fact that somebody believes that these companies are going to fail. But we got to be honest about the fact that there are hundreds, thousands of companies that were trading on the stock exchange that no longer are there, right? So that was an opportunity for someone who was smart enough to catch that top to be able to write it all the way down to zero. So many of these over-the-counter stocks are not going to be there a year, 2 years, 3 years from now, heck, 6 months from now, most of them. So that's an opportunity for someone who can go in there, who's got some capital and a little bit of patience, and see how things go.
Yeah, it's amazing. I like to put it just as like, this is capitalism. There's buyers and sellers, yes. And without a seller, you can't buy anything. Somebody said to me a little while ago, like, why they should not allow sellers of calls anymore? And it's like, well, without who are you going to buy it from then? Yeah. First of all, and second of all, this is pure capitalism, and we are we're providing liquidity. So
absolutely,
we are the grease that makes the engine of capitalism flow. Anytime you're exposing yourself to risk in the market, no matter what you're doing, you're adding liquidity, and you're helping the you're helping the market work and run. So
absolutely. And Dave, and if we're wrong, we get squeezed, right? So the stock goes higher. So it's a necessary part of trading. And There's risk involved, but at the same time, we're the hyenas of the market, and we provide a service that without, I couldn't imagine what the market would look like if it wasn't for short sellers.
Yeah, and that applies not just to the small cap world. That applies to all stocks. I mean, there's obviously bigger people in upstairs that. I mean, we've seen it just in the last week with the market with all these sell-offs. There's obviously people that are generating those down moves and are looking to buy stuff lower.
Absolutely.
And so what sectors have you focused on as far as shorting things? I know we mentioned the marijuana stocks, and obviously the biotech or the medical world is a place where companies do operate for many years without a profit, but then all of a sudden they come up with some sort of invention or something and the stocks do go up. That's a little scarier, I would think, those industries. The biotech ones and stuff. Yeah, the biotechs have always been kind of funny for me, and I've never really traded them because I they very much are companies you really have to know what's going on. You really have to know what the timelines are for their current studies, whether or not they have any FDA news pending. You really don't want to go short on those stocks when you don't know the story, right? So. And many times when those companies end up on the over-the-counter, many times the big move has already been missed. What's happened is the company failed and gets delisted and then ends up on the over-the-counter exchange. So by the time I see them, they pretty much missed the boat on them. So when it comes to shorting, for me, company really doesn't matter. I'm just strictly looking for overvalued, unjustified valuation. And it doesn't matter what industry it is. If I'm seeing a company that's got, $3,000 in cash, literally $3,000 in cash, and it's got a $120 million market cap, and it's liquid, and it's got, borrows, I'm going to short that stock. So that just makes sense. So then why switch to learning about options and getting into some of these bigger? I saw you talking about Roku the other day. Mm-hmm. Why switch things if that's working for you? Well, because you don't always have a stock to short sometimes. I mean, they kind of come and go, and you get to dry periods where there isn't much out there, but there's always money to be made on the option market, and being able to make money sideways, up or down, over the course of a short period of time, like a week or a day, or over the course of a year. That really intrigues me. I understand the risk is a lot different, but in certain extent is actually less than maybe shorting OTC stocks, right? Meaning that I don't necessarily have to put up as much capital to generate the kind of returns. That really interests me about options. The fact that I can put up $5,000 in an option call and own 100,000 shares of stock, and maybe something like a PayPal or an option like Macy's or Foot Locker, something of that extent. So that really interests me, and the kind of returns that option traders are making, Dave, I'm shocked when I see options go 200, 300% in a day sometimes over the course of a week. I saw let's say recently when we saw the stock of Wynn, or the casino stock, where I watched the 130 puts literally soar over 700%. I've never seen that kind of money being made that quickly on a stock that trades on an exchange like the NASDAQ or the New York Stock Exchange. When those things happen, it catches your eye and you say, hey, I got to see what's going on there. Yeah, well, in a sense, options turn any stock into a penny stock, because you can pick a strike and you can buy an option as if it's just like $1 or like 50 cents, and that gives you access to trading. Before, if it wasn't for options, somebody like me couldn't really trade something like Apple, because what am I going to buy? Like 5 shares or, right, exactly. Amazon or Tesla or whatever your example is. But yeah, so, well, that brings you up to now. So now you're running the business, and, so I want to ask you just a little bit about your market opinions right now of things. So I've been following the marijuana stock world for about 2 years now or something. It seems to sort of it's interesting because it will like they'll all act like together for a while, but then they'll all separate and then they'll act together. And it seems like a lot of it is sort of riding on this, or at least it was until recently, on this July number for Canada. Of like recreational being legalized somewhat, but yeah, we've seen it. Them all rally like crazy right before Christmas, and then sort of sell off again now. And I guess when they do sell off, that does expose the ones that are just kind of along for the ride. And
absolutely, I mean the approval of California legalization and many other states, it's a really a rising of all boats kind of situation when that happens. And but eventually, yeah, the market starts to say, okay, hold up here. Now we're pretty high up there in terms of valuations. Who's the real deal here? And eventually, guys are, hey, I don't want to buy that. I don't want to buy this one. I don't want to buy that. I want to buy this one. And the companies that are really creating a business in the industry, they get recognized, and the ones that aren't, that are just paper selling schemes, they get realized, and they go to zero. So we saw that with Bitcoin stocks. We saw that with if you can go back as far as the 1950s, and with the mics at that time. So they've always been kind of these companies that will pop up in the middle of a introduction of a new industry, and a lot of those companies don't stick around for very long.
So how would you describe shortly just the history of the marijuana stock trade?
Well, I think we're at the crossroads now where we're just on for, I think, of a nationwide legalization on it, and the companies that I think that are in position for acquisition for some of the larger cap stocks, I think many of these cigarette makers that are still publicly traded, they're going to be snatching up some of them. And I think most of them are in Canada. Most of the marijuana stocks that I think that are eventually going to be acquisition targets, they're in Canada. I don't know of one good over-the-counter stock that based here in America that I can see, 10 years from now still being in business. I think there are a few other companies that are surrounding the business of marijuana, being one ticker symbol SRNA. Cerna, they're basically involved in the business of heating and cooling of these marijuana grow farms. I can see that being a very successful company. Another one is KSHB, called Kush Bottles. They're involved in the paper, not paperwork, but the wrapping and containers and special cases that these products are shipped in. They've got a monopoly on the market. I think they're going to be around for very longer. But a lot of these U.S. based marijuana companies aren't going to be here for much longer. But the ones that will be are, I think, in Canada, because they have so much of a leg up, being that it's already legalized in Canada.
Yeah, well, the political situation here is it's a volatile situation, because you've got a majority of Americans has overwhelmingly switched to being pro marijuana and legalization, even for recreational use. But yet you have the government, the Trump administration, that is like venomously opposed to it. And so people are very scared to invest in anything to do with American stocks. There are even, rumors that like they will go after the brokerages, or if you're long these things. And I mean, there's and so the Canada's been where it's at. As far as I understand, there's like the big three Canadian stocks: Afria, Canopy Growth, and ACB. And but it's hard to tell with the administration right now in the U.S. Nothing's happening. And even these stocks that have like drugs for approval coming up, I know, like Insys, for example. There's a bunch of them. there's another one that escapes my mind, but people are afraid that like even the FDA will approve stuff with you know, Jeff Sessions in office and
Right.
them being so opposed to it. So, but the thing with that is it also creates opportunity, because if you are along these things and you know, somehow, like what happens if midterms, the Republicans get voted out and some of these swings, and all of a sudden everything's back on. I mean, there's definitely trading opportunities in these,
Absolutely.
these things. And if I've been successful with trading some of the Canadian ones and just taking a little ride on them and getting off, but you know, it's scary. It's scary out there, definitely.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, Jeff Sessions can come out, say one thing, and next thing you know, they're down 10%. So, you know, the political situation has definitely had an effect on marijuana.
Now, are you a politically active person? Do you vote? Do you follow those things?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's a part of I as a black man can't have a show on YouTube about money and finance and not talk about how, you know, political you know, events are affecting the market and particularly traders like myself who are in the market.
Well, I guess the statistic is that 90% of the black vote is basically Democrat. So that tells you something there. So I would assume are you a Democrat also? Are you on that side of the aisle, or do you?
I'm an independent. I'm an independent. You know, 90% of African Americans are Democrats because the Democrats have done the most outreach. They spend the most money when it comes to outreach in that community. Now, many conservatives will say, you know, the Republicans freed the slaves, and that's true, but they haven't done anything since then for people of color. So
right, plus the party switched at some point way back then. So
exactly.
it's kind of a you know, a trick question, I think.
Right, it's very much a trick question. So I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about outreach. It's about whether or not you really care about the underlying issues of that community. And, you know, if you do, they're going to vote for you. If you don't, they're not going to vote for you. And that's just kind of what it is. I mean, the Democrats, they come to the neighborhoods, they knock on doors, they hire young people to promote, they pay them to go out there and get involved in their community. And they're spending the money, and that's why they're getting the votes. I mean, that's just basically what the gist is when it comes to that.
Yeah, I'm very cautious about speaking about politics just because I'm just starting out on YouTube and I'm afraid of dating like my audience. I figure if I come out as neutral, then I'm going to alienate everybody and they're all going to hate me. And if I come out as 50%, it's either going to be 50% one way or the other.
Dave. It's tough. It's tough, Dave. And I've got guys who are saying, hey, you know, man, I used to watch your stuff, and unfortunately, I can't because you know, I feel like you go too hard on Trump or you go too hard on Clinton, or you know, at the end of the day, Dave, you got to be who you are. That's what's true. Very true. That's going to attract people out there who are going to hear your message, who are going to, if you end up coming out with a product or suggest a product, who are going to follow through on that. Because, you know, I'd rather have 1,000 people who really are engaged in what I'm doing than, you know, 100,000 people who are subscribed and aren't really tuned into what exactly I'm doing here. So it's always tough to talk about politics, but you know, I wouldn't want it any other way, because I just would constantly have to avoid certain subjects.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I'm able to like kind of like sidestep pretty well in a way, but I hear you on that, definitely. So I was going to ask you, all right, so that marijuana, do you think, because one of the people I brought on recently was saying like, you know, this stuff is going to double, triple in value, and just being long any of this stuff in the long run is going to make a bunch of millionaires moving forward. Do you think that that's true, or is this stuff all going to go up? Is there going to be like a boom, or has that already happened?
I think there's still a significant amount of upside left. Again, I think there's bigger upside when you talk about the Canadian stocks. There are a few U.S. stocks that are involved in the business of marijuana that I think, yes, I think there's still 1,000, 2,000% upside to many of them. There's a Miracle Grow. I think their ticker, I can't remember what their ticker is. I think there's significant amount of upside to that. That's a stock that's trading at 3 digits right now as it is. But I can see that going much higher with a national legalization of marijuana. So Absolutely. I think there are a few, again, most of them in Canada, but there are a few here that, yes, we are going to see trading one day 1,000% from where they are now.
Okay, so when you come in the morning, what do you look at on the screen? Do you follow like the broad market like indices like the NASDAQ and gold and that sort of thing? What's on your watch list every day? Is it just specific stocks that you're trading, or how do you approach the trading day in the morning?
So yes, mostly, I'll follow, let's say, the NASDAQ, but preferably the ETFs, the SPY, QQQs, just to peek a look at that, and I know what the broader indices are doing. So I follow that. Commodities, not so much. Gold, silver, just because they kind of have their own little things going on. They're separate from everything else. It almost seems like I don't follow those too much. But yeah, wake up in the morning, I pull up my Black Box Stocks is a platform I use. I also pull up my equity feed, which is what I use to do my scans, and really looking to see what's moving, preferably the OTC markets right now, because that's kind of where I'm focused on, and other small cap stocks that I could look to possibly short that day, looking to see if investors are buying into any kind of hype of, let's say, of a biotech announcement or whatnot, particularly, on the small cap side intraday. News comes out in the morning, and next thing you know, the stock's up 30, 40, 50% on news that, in all hindsight, is pretty weak. So I try to take advantage of those inefficiencies by shorting that, those kind of plays intraday. But overall, not, I see what the broader market is doing. And again, that kind of goes back to what we talk about in options. I'd love to start to learn more about how I can, spread myself more into what the broader market is doing.
Now, your personal savings and money. I just wanted to ask you about this because we had a lot of. I specialize in the VIX and volatility products, and I talk a lot about some very risky plays in this niche of the financial world, and some people who have watched me before have gone all in on some very risky plays, and I almost didn't realize that. And one of the reasons maybe that they had done that, and I don't take responsibility for other people's trades. I don't tell people. I don't make recommendations or anything, even less so than you do. But I feel the need now to sort of back up and tell people, look, we're traders. We talk about a bunch of different stocks, but as far as my overall money, I don't put all of it at risk most of the time. So because I had people who came to me right after that little down move thing we had February 5th, and were like, look, I've been working my whole life, saving my money. I have had a good job my whole life. I was able to save like 500 grand, and I just lost 450 of it on these plays. And so to which I was shocked, because I was thinking, well, people would be, they would have some sort of more conservative overall to protect themselves against, if the trade goes against them or whatever. So what sort of advice would you give people? Let's say somebody's come into the trading world, they've made a little money, they have another job on the side, they've got some savings. Let's say they have, I don't know, $20,000 saved, or whatever the number is, 200,000. I don't know. How would you recommend people overall manage their finances as far as what to do with their savings or whatnot?
Yeah, so risk management is, of course, a very important part of trading. Just like conventional wisdom basically says, don't put all your eggs in one basket, right? When it comes to trades, and being in your industry, that person should have known what the risks are in trading a product like that. I mean, I know guys had made millions of dollars just shorting the VIX over the last 2 years, but they should have known eventually that things were going to eventually change. But with that being said, for us, it's a unique thing, because again, Dave, traders come to me with very little capital, 25, 5,000, 10,000. I can't just go out and tell them, hey, make sure that no trade is over 10% of your account.
Right, they're not going to make it. Yeah.
Right, they're not going to make it. So I just say, if you're going to go in big, just make sure that you give yourself enough time to be right. Especially when we're going into options, give yourself enough time. Stay out of the weeklies. Heck, I wouldn't even stay out of the monthlies if you can. Go give yourself 60, 90-day option trades. So if you're wrong, you just sell that time back to the market, and you're not taking that big L. So when it comes to when it comes to penny stocks, I try to say, look, go for what's running right now. Don't stay out of the ones that are illiquid and you're just hoping and praying something is going to happen. So that if, again, you're not right, you can quickly exit your position because there's liquidity there.
Yeah, I mean, what you've told me does sort of set up an irony that there's people coming to you with a lot of people coming to you with less than $10,000 in this penny stock arena, and yet your most successful trades are shorting stuff where you have to have at least $10,000 to short it. And so it's almost like you're teaching people to take the other side of that trade in a way, which I know you're not, and it's not like a sneaky thing or anything like that. But so what is your general advice to somebody? If someone comes to you, I come to you, I'm like, look, man, I'm working at McDonald's. I've saved up $500. What should I do?
So someone like yourself, I would never suggest you touch OTC stocks to begin with. Over-the-counter stocks, and the way I present it on my show is typically the guys we're talking about the downside trade of an over-the-counter stock. To someone new who's just really looking to get started, again, I'm going to point you towards the TD Ameritrades, the E-Trade brokers of the world, and I'm going to advise you to look into small cap stocks that trade on the NASDAQ or the New York Stock Exchange. So because those are stocks that I can then point you to guys who teach about technical analysis, ways to use moving averages and whatnot to effectively become a good trader with stocks that actually have volume, that have at least, somewhat reliable patterns that you can trade. So that's where I would point you to as a beginner trader looking to get started with $500.
What I know you talk about setups for trading stocks. What do you mean when you say a setup?
Well, so what we love are stocks that are, let's say, coming back from the dead. I love the 200 moving average crosses. I love stocks that are been really beat up and they found some new momentum. We love, of course, as shorters, we love stocks that are falling, let's say, crossing the 100 on the downside. So they're going below their 100 moving averages, and it looks like a significant downturn is beginning. So we love those kind of things. So I look to teach very simplistic strategies on how to trade, stocks. And I want to be that platform that guys use to, either learn how to, not necessarily learn how to trade, but learn what trading is, eventually use me to go somewhere else, get information, and come back and regurgitate it to traders who are still there. So we talk about tickers for the most part, and not as much strategy. So we're looking for, we're going through 50 to 60 stocks a night, a small cap, right? Well, mostly stocks preferably under, $25 a share. We like to stay under that. And we're looking for either, gap down, so RSI, sub 30 RSI plays that could, we're looking to take advantage of that inefficiency as that kind of comes back from the dead. We're looking for, again, the crossovers and whatnot. So it's just really simplistic stuff that we can use on a higher time frame chart, let's say a daily or a weekly, to determine a great trade that will be able to generate a solid return.
Yeah, that's interesting stuff. So with the average guy that's watching your show would maybe have like 4 or 5 positions sort of that they're working. They'd have maybe a watch list of 20 stocks and maybe be working 4 or 5 things, something like that.
Yes, I would say I would agree with that. They would have a watch list of about 20 positions, about 3 to 4 that they're watching or in at any one given time. Again, most of them are going to be overwhelmingly small cap stocks that trade on the New York Stock Exchange or the NASDAQ. And he's watching my show to either reaffirm his beliefs in certain stocks that he's trading, or to uncover new opportunities for positions he might want to be interested in taking in the future.
It's a different world. It's a different world from the one I came from. I was trained to be a market maker in options, like right off the bat, knowing nothing about anything else, and it's like upside down from the stuff that you guys are doing. Like I was not taught anything about charts. I mean, pretty much I was taught all about volatility and like and as an options trader, we trade delta neutral all the time, pretty much. So we're not either long or short stocks. And so for me, like making the change over to retail and actually, like, I'm terrible at picking stocks. I'm terrible at saying what's going to go up or down, because that wasn't my world at all. I was like flat and trading options versus each other and stuff like that. So for me to like come back and get into that world is it's interesting to me. I still don't trade that way, which is fine. You know, everybody does stuff differently. I'm not saying that yours is better or mine's better or whatever, but it's just it's new to me. So it's cool. There's another guy who's on YouTube. His name is Chart Guys, and they've taught me a little bit about technical analysis and setups and stuff too, because it's a different thing than what I've ever been exposed to. It's fascinating. I see also that you're very engaged with your viewership. Like they send you tweets and stuff during the day, and obviously I've learned from being a YouTuber that you really have to love to put on shows and do YouTube stuff to continue in this arena, because it's not if you're in it for the money, it's going to take too long. You're going to be out of it before it. So do you love being on YouTube and doing that?
I love being in front of the air. This was kind of opportunity that you know, I'm just so grateful. I'm at the right time, and I'm just grateful that this technology is becoming just so efficient for me to be able to create my own, basically my own television network right here over the computer. And, you know, being able to put my voice out there, my ideas, and have people embrace it, it really means a lot to me. And yes, I communicate very frequently with my guests. I create a community around my voice and what we're doing here, because I really think it is a mission for us to really get started where we are in these small caps, but eventually we see ourselves being able to go out and, you know, buy 20,000 contracts of CAT and of those. That's where we want to get to, right? And that's the plan, you know, 10, 20 years from now, or maybe even closer, who knows? But it's all about, you know, starting where we are. And that's basically all I'm doing, David. I'm starting where I am. I'm enjoying the process. I'm taking it one day at a time. Educating myself, but eventually knowing that I have a goal for myself up there where, you know, with hard work and dedication, I can be one of those traders who can watch CNBC and really care about the stock that they're talking about, because I can go out and buy what they're talking about.
Well, I mean, you're doing a great job, and I mean, you've taught like hundreds of people about the markets, which is you know, an amazing thing. It's amazing to be able to speak and have all these people listen to you, you know. And I've sneakily watched your shows a couple times. I didn't want to put my name in the chat because I don't know why I didn't, but it's really interesting to watch you analyze stuff, because you know, in the end, whether you come up through Tim Sykes or wherever you come up from, in the end, it's you that learns. It's you that learns what's going on and how stuff works. And you know, in the end, whether you're trained this way or that way, we're all speaking the same language, and we're all looking at the same stuff in the end. And I don't know. I think you're doing a great job, and that's why I wanted to bring you on here for one thing. I also noticed that you've got a couple little like side things going. I saw you with some sunglasses the other day, talking about that. And did you? So has this pretty much been your job the whole time, or have you taken side jobs along the way?
Well, yeah. So what's done now is I've been able to create just promotional opportunities around my show. So I'm promoting Equity Feed and their scanner software. I'm promoting black box stocks, and it's been incredible revenue generators. I mean, consistent revenue generation from these products from guys who are looking to get started in trading, and they're coming to me asking me what are the tools that I need to be successful. And that's a way that I can point guys to particular products and then make income off that. So it's been a great opportunity for me to be and continue to enrich me to do what I'm doing. So absolutely, I'm becoming a very interesting voice in this space. I take it with a very unique responsibility. There's a unique responsibility there that I have, and I'm pointing guys to products that really work, that I think that can honestly help them, and who have people behind the products who understand who these traders are, and that this isn't something just to get every dollar out of them. They actually want you to be traders who can be successful, and that's the kind of products I'm bringing in front of people, and being able to generate revenue off of that isn't a bad thing.
Yeah, well, it's good for people to have somebody that they can trust to say, like, look, don't spend $500 on this newsletter or that.
Absolutely.
I'm actually in a dialogue with Black Box right now. There's a person on StockTwits who she has like a picture of a pretty girl on the profile, and there's some debate about whether it's actually a woman who's running the thing or not.
Most of them aren't women. Most of them are women. They it's to get your attention, but most of them aren't women.
But I'm sort of on the fence, but because I'm in negotiation with them, I'm going to assume for now that this actually is a woman, and but she basically, I think she pretty much just reads the screen off of Black Box and lists some of their recommendations every day. Okay. And it's very interesting information because, this is the thing, even with chat rooms that have inexperienced traders and this sort of thing, it's all information because it tells you what people are looking at that day,
yes.
And it tells you what the theme is that day. It tells you what stocks are hot. If and where the action is, and there is something to be said to be, if you go where the action is and you can start to feel it, then you can make money where the action is. Anyway, so I approached Black Box Stocks, and I was like, I've been trying to get her to do an interview, and because I think it's fascinating. I think half the guys in StockTwits are in love with this person because I'll watch her like put a post up, and these guys will be trying to like smooth talk her and stuff like that. and so I thought it would be a great way to get some views is to interview this woman. And so I'm still in the process. She said she's getting it cleared with the guy who is one of the. So I researched that company a little bit, and they've got some good like sort of quant guys behind it that set up the scans and all that stuff. But seems like an interesting company, and I definitely agree that having some sort of scanning, either company or software, definitely helps because it like once again, anything that engages you with the market and helps you zero in on what the theme is that day and what's going on is great. And I'm kind of looking for my channel to do some sort of sponsorship gigs. I know other people do. I have a friend who does similar stuff to what I do, and he's done some sort of infomercial type things which it's all revenue streams and anything that helps us keep going is great. So you
definitely want to. It just makes sense for you to monetize your audience. I mean, they're looking to have you decide on what they need to do. I mean, that's really why they're coming to you. I mean, so it just makes sense because it goes perfectly aligns itself with what you're doing, that you get behind a product that you like, and you are able to use that to generate some revenue. And Black Box is a great product. Guys are on Wall Street. They're using Black Boxes. They're bringing up tickers that it's going to take you 20, 30 minutes for you to do on your own to find. So if to find at all. So and the market is moving so fast, you really don't have time to waste, when you're talking about intraday trading. So it's a great product to promote.
Are there any have you had any problems with, I know you like put yourself out there to there's a lot of transparency. Someone can call right up into your show. Do you ever have problems with like stalkers or like people that just like want to call you every 5 minutes or?
I mean, of course. I mean, but look, at the end of the day, I mean, for the most part, you're talking to traders. You're going to have a clown here too, but a guy like me who's going to come back on the next day and the next day after that, next day after that, it gets tiring even for them, right? So at the beginning, yeah, I had the trolls who would call up. I had guys who would call up, and I had one guy who was like, yeah, I have a ticker for you. And he was like, I was like, okay, sure, give me the ticker. He was like, yeah, ASS. You know what I mean? Or like
Howard Stern guys or something like that.
Yeah. Or, I mean, SHIT or some crap like that. I mean, just all kind of just games. But, you know, eventually they realize you really love what you're doing. You're really serious about what you're doing. And, you know, and I've always said, I've been very transparent. I got a call in line. You got an issue with me, or you got an issue with a stock or something like that, talk to us. You got 100 people listening to you right now. What you got to say? And you'd be surprised how actually a lot of guys are scared about that. They're scared about guys hearing their voices and you know, and being heard like that. So it's actually a deterrent. It's almost now to guys who aren't serious about trading or are serious about this this industry.
Yeah, I've switched to live stream for a lot of the interviews because it makes it more volatile. Like something could happen, or you know, you can screw something up, or like it puts people kind of on the spot in a way. Yes. It puts me on the spot in a way, and it's more real in a way because and people will forgive you if like you know the screen falls over or whatever, you know, whatever. Yeah. But it definitely is more exciting, and it's kind of the trend these days too to be live and because it is more real. So so what would be the ideal thing for you? Like let's say you trade and you make $10 million somehow next year. What would you do after that? Would you stay in the business or? Oh,
absolutely. I mean, my next step for me really is I want to become a nomad trader. I want to be a trader who's trading from all around the world and still talking about stocks, still talking about his love of this industry, but now being able to do it from various locations all around the world. I want to be able to show people what they, you know, really materially get from this business, not the cars or anything, but the experiences that making money in the stock market can do for you and help you experience. So being able to trade from Egypt, being able to trade from China, being able to trade from South Africa and all these, that's really the next step. And I'm really looking to build a foundation for either late 2018 or early 2019 is being able to take this show on the road. Obviously, maybe not every night or not every day, but at least for a month or two, go out there and show people the world, show what trading can do.
So what are you doing when you're not trading? Are you really a big TV fan, or are you like a huge like Detroit sports fan, or what are you doing when you're what would you be doing if you weren't in front of the computer?
So I'm a big fan of documentaries. I like documentaries. I do like sports. I like my basketball. I love football. Right now, I'm already thinking about the draft and what my team, the New Orleans Saints, we just got kicked out of the unfortunate situation with the Vikings, but who we're going to draft, and I'm already emailing coaches like, hey, you need to draft this guy and whatnot. So I'm a big football fan, and you know, obviously now the college football and NFL is over. We're looking forward to the draft, and but besides that, if I'm not on the markets and I'm reading about the markets, I do like a lot of reading, particularly about the stock market, how to trade, money management, risk management, also certain maybe ideas and patterns that I haven't gotten down yet. I try to find ways to remember them and hopefully use them in my trading. So I'm all around just really about the market, but of course I try to leave time for myself to be a normal person, because the stock market too, it can take your whole life if you're not careful. You can really be enveloped into everything that is where you have no social life. So it's important to get out, and I try to mix that up.
So are you married?
No, I am dating, not married. You know, the woman I'm talking to, I'm more than likely going to end up marrying her. I'm more than likely going to end up. I always told her I haven't told her this yet, but I would more than likely marry her unless she goes crazy. But other than that, I'm very happily dating, and she really makes it very easy for me to do what I'm doing, and that's always a plus.
Is she supportive of your trading and all that stuff?
Absolutely, yeah. She's a big supporter of what I'm doing, and she loves the fact that I have something going for myself, because, you know, it's really tough, you know, for guys who are just trying to do the 9-to-5 thing and not really getting ahead. So I think for her, I think she likes having a boyfriend who's, you know, really out there, really hustling, really out there making moves, and being proactive when it comes to building something.
Well, it's definitely attractive for women to be in the markets, and actually doing anything that you're actually doing something.
Right.
I try to insulate from my significant other the actual P&L swings, just because I don't want to worry her. And
yes,
she doesn't, you know, and it's not a 9-to-5 job in the sense of, I mean, maybe the making shows is, but trading wise, it's not. You can't predict what you're going to make. You don't know when it's going to happen, and it doesn't happen in an orderly basis. So it's almost easier to be single sometimes in a way. I mean, I remember when I first started trading, the guys that had the wife and kids weren't swinging it as hard, because they're like, I got a lot of you know, stuff in the background that the responsibility. So it can be hard. But I think you brought up a good point before, which is like, for people to get started in this, it almost makes sense. You really almost have to go all in to start with. And if it doesn't work, then go back, do whatever you were doing before, save up another X amount. For me, it was like, I've had like several, you know, I was very successful when I was very younger, but then I like went away from it and came back. And coming back was really hard, because all of a sudden I wasn't a professional. I wasn't doing the things I was doing before. And so I went about like saving up X. For me, it was like a couple grand. I saved up like $3,000, and I tried to trade with that, but I was pretty aggressive because I had to be. When you're first starting out, you gotta be, you gotta go all in to an extent, because you can't just buy like, you know, basically to make it work. So, and I did lose that initial money, and then I picked myself back up, saved up that, and then went in again. And that's just the way it works to start with, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, if you're not going to go all in, you might as well just go buy an ETF and go do something else. I mean, because if you're not going to go all in, the ETF will outperform you, and you rather just not lose the money, right? So just leave it up to the ETF to do. And but if you're going to go all in and really be serious and dedicated, you can outperform the market with a great strategy and some patience, and you can make it worth the time and effort. So I think going all in is really the only way to go when it comes to trading stocks, because if you don't love it, again, just go buy an ETF.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of people like these, I don't know if it's just a sign of our times or not, but so many people are so like risk averse in life, and you're never going to be successful. You're never going to be a real big success if you're totally risk averse. Anybody who's made it in business or made it in finance has had to step up and take some risk at some point, put it on the line. Because if you don't put it on the line, you're just going to have an average life. And that, you know, people like you and I don't want an average life, so we take some risk, and yeah, you're going to lose sometimes, but that's the only way to change your situation, I think.
I think so. I mean, you know, it really is the only way, and you know, the industry is getting cheaper, and the cost of trading is getting cheaper to where now I think one day we might end up with it won't cost you anything to trade. I know there's some brokers now that don't charge you anything to trade, but you know, it really makes sense for us to go out there and really stake your claim, because these jobs aren't going to be paying you, and they're not going to pay you. They're looking for reasons not to pay you. So if you want more, if you want a better quality of life besides a vacation or two a year, you really need to go out there and find something that's going to be able to generate the kind of revenues that you need to create that life.
Yeah, it's like it's pulling teeth just to get people to like contribute to a 401k or something like that, even when it's being matched. And that's just, it's a lot of it's an education thing, unfortunately. But you know, you're definitely doing your part to help out, and I think it's going to be interesting to follow you in a couple of years, and hopefully you'll still allow me to talk to you when you're like,
no, Dave, anytime, bro, anytime. Anybody who shows me love now gets all the love forever. But I appreciate being on your show, Dave. Again, it's really great to always be on someone else's platform for a change. And I hope you definitely come on mine, and because there's a lot of education I'd love to pick your brain on in terms of options and introduce to my followers. So again, I'm grateful that you took the opportunity to interview me. Thank you so much.
Well, like I said, I see huge things for you in the future, and you're looking at the same. Most of the people that I'm surrounded by are pros on my channel, but when I watch you in the chat, you're looking at the exact same things that everybody else is. So don't be fooled by this these snooty people.
Thank you, thank you.
And I'm going to provide in the description where you can check out Sal's stuff, and really awesome job, and you're an inspirational figure to me, and I know to a lot of other people. So thank you very much for your contribution to this industry, and best of luck moving forward. And definitely stay in touch with me. And I'm gonna be you'll see me in your chat because I'm a fan.
Appreciate you, Dave. Thank you so much.
All right, nice talking to you.
You as well, Dave. Till next time.
All right.
Do you want to help us? We are teaching people to be financially independent. Being part of the solution, will you donate $5 to support this YouTube channel, which is just starting out? You will feel good every time you watch.